Hey everybody, Duffy here with Hula-Cow Studios. Proof that just about anybody can buy a lab coat. But today what we're here to talk about is this. This is a Neumann U87 AI classic circuit shrunk down and put into a TLM-103 style body. You probably saw me do another video on it. The point is, this thing, well, this is actually a prototype. The real ones look like this. Aha. So, anywho, the point is, if you want to build one of these things, you can get the circuit board for it, but they're very, very small. Plus, they have add-on boards on them that are even smaller. So, if you're going to build this thing, you want to do it carefully. And we're going to show you how. Hey everyone! Let's go over the assembly of the Lei87 board. Alright, so as you notice, there's a couple of pieces. Specifically, 3 daughter boards that are attached to the thing. And I'm going to show you how to disconnect those safely in a minute. But let's go over the features first. First, we have the star of the show. This is the brightness switch. It can change the EQ of the mic. You can select whichever capacitors you want, and you can make the top end as bright and sparkly or as dark and warm as you want. It adds a notch near the top, basically. So this is a unique feature to this particular microphone. It was never a feature of the original U87, and the fact that we can put it into a miniaturized one that fits in a 103 body is pretty exciting. But let's get on with it. As you can see here, you're going to want to attach this board in lieu of the capacitor that goes in this spot. And then you can put 2 capacitors on this and use an on-on switch to switch between them. Pay careful attention, because the input goes into the pole of the switch and the outputs go to the 2 throws. This should be a constant on-on switch where you can select between 2 different circuits. Next up, we have the high-pass filter. This one's pretty straightforward. It's just a capacitor and a resistor, and a switch in and out. It also connects to the board, like so. You'll notice that there's a little part that says 2 switch. I'm not going to put that there because you guys know how to hook up a toggle switch at this point. And if you don't, you might not be needing to build this particular one as a first project. Next up, we have something really cool. The attenuation pad. Now, this is an H-pad style circuit, and this is also not original to the Neumann U87 AI. They had an in-circuit pad. This one goes between the XLR plug and the circuit at large, as you can see. Now, what you're going to do is you are actually going to cut the traces that go between the part that hooks up to the XLR plug and the next hop in the circuit. You don't have to cut these if you're installing this without the pad, but if you want to put the pad in, you have to cut those traces. Next, wire up the daughter board so that the input goes into one side and the output goes into the other. Careful not to swap them. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you do, but you will reverse polarity on the mic if you do that. Next, just wire your switch in and you're ready to go. Also, if you notice, the resistor on the one side of the board is actually your value for how much attenuation you want. There's some values listed on the board right there. I generally recommend going with 10 or 15 because, I mean, why bother with 5? And 20 is a little hefty unless you're planning on miking a drum cabinet or something with this. But that said, yeah, you can actually alter the resistor to alter the amount of attenuation you get in your pad. Okay. Here's the fun one, and I'm sure there's going to be people talking about this in the comments. If you build this without any daughter boards and you just plug an XLR plug onto the bottom of this thing and solder it into place, it will work. But you're going to pick up some noise in really noisy RF environments, okay? So I don't recommend you do that. The proper way to do this is going to be to take pin 1 here and cut the trace, like so, okay? And then what you're going to do is you are going to wire the top side of that to the ground of the body. And then the body ground is going to wire into the lower part that solders into the XLR plug. So what you have is the circuit actually grounds out through the body, and then the body connects to pin 1. And that'll actually create a Faraday cage effect and mitigate a lot of the noise you can pick up for RF or radio frequencies or Wi-Fi routers or anything like that. I actually hooked this up this way and set this thing on top of a Wi-Fi router before I was starting to get like the little bip, 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 bip thing. So you can do it the lazy way and just solder the plug directly to it and not worry about that. I do not recommend that. If you are taking the time to do a custom, high-quality build like this, you're going to want to ground it correctly. One thing I don't recommend you do, although you do you, and I did it, you're listening to it on this microphone that I'm talking on, is to hook up all 3 daughter boards on the same build. It is extremely tight. It is difficult to do, and you are going to have a challenge getting it in. In fact, it was kind of a nightmare. I'm really happy with the result, but getting all 3 switches on this thing is a pain. Proceed at your own risk. It gets especially tight because you have to install the transformer and the capsule. That turns into a lot of wires. All right, with that out of the way, let me go show you how to take this board apart when it first comes in the mail. Good morning, everybody. This is a Lei87. Now, this PCB allows you to build a classic Neumann U87 AI circuit into a TLM-103 style body. And sorry for the bad focus here, but I'm trying to show you guys how to start assembling this thing. And in order to do that, you need to take it apart. Now, taking it apart is not difficult, but you do need to be a little bit careful with it. See how it has the little mouse bite perforations on it? Well, those should make it easy to pull apart, especially these right here. But if you'll notice, like right there and right there, there are some traces that are awfully close to that thing. This is a tight little build. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start, if the camera will focus, by gently rocking back and forth along the mouse bites. Now, I tried to do this with a Dremel tool, but unfortunately, it kind of digs a little wider than it should, and you run the risk of breaking some of the traces by that. So, if you just take it and rock back and forth gently, it should come off. Now, this one's being stubborn, so what we can do, hold on a moment, is we can get a little flat cutting tool like this and just gently cut into it a bit, like that. Being very careful not to get into the circuitry here real quick. Let me look under here and see what I'm doing real fast. Just want to make sure that it's not, make sure that the blade, the flat of your blade is like a little cutting, oop, and there it goes. See? And that comes off real easy. And now, in addition to our main board, we have our nice little EQ brightness select switch here. It's separated from the board, and we can attach it to our switch, and it's nice and neat and clean. So let's do that for this other one. Actually, wait a sec. You can also score it with a razor blade carefully across the mouse bites there. And in fact, you're going to want to do that for this middle part here just to make it a little bit easier to rock out. Now, I'm not going to do that on camera. We're going to jump ahead because I'm having a hard enough time trying to get this thing to focus and hold everything with 2 hands. And, yeah, we'll be right back. Although I think this might be helpful for you guys to see, so I'm going to try. You get the point of the razor blade in there and you just, come on, focus. Just put the point of the razor blade right on the mouse bites and just drag it across. And the perforations should guide you. Just be careful and patient when you do this and you should be fine. There we go. Now, if you've scored it enough, it should just break right off easily. One thing I'm going to point out is be sure that you keep your score line along the perforations. Now, It should be easy to do that because your knife is going to want to follow the perforations, but just be careful you don't deviate because look how close these traces are. So be careful about that and you'll be fine. Once your scores are deep enough, just bend it and it'll break right off. And this little switch is our high-pass filter. You can attach this to a switch and the leads from this go to the board. And in fact, the board is kind of hard to read on this one. So let's take a look here. If I can get it to focus. Actually, it's on the other side. Yeah, see, okay. So right here you have &1, and up here you have &2. So 1 and 2, it corresponds with &1 and &2 right here. Actually, I think that might be backwards. That might be &2 right there. Yeah, that's &2 right there. That's &1 right there. It's really small on this board, so it's hard to see. On this board, oddly enough, it's actually a little bit bigger, so you can see it easier. That's your 2. That's your 1 right there. You can put a 150K to 180K resistor right there, and a 470 nanofarad capacitor there. I mean, actually, you can put anything you want there. It's just that was the 150K was, and the 470 was Neumann's original specification. So if you want this to sound like OEM, follow spec. If you don't care, then you have a party. So I'm going to be honest. Sawing through these little parts here, these little perforations, with a razor blade is extremely tedious. But I recommend that you exercise the patience and care to do so carefully. Because what's even more tedious is breaking the board and waiting another week or two for the replacement to show up. But once you've sawed through them almost all the way, as you can see we've done here, all you have to do is take and rock it back and forth from here to here to here to here, and it will eventually pop loose if you're careful. If it's not going, don't force it. Like, if you rock it back and forth and you don't feel it moving, don't just, because you will break the board. Go back and start sawing on these lines a little bit more with your razor blade, okay? Do not, under any circumstances, insert something here to pry with, because what will happen instead is you'll break off this little thin part at the top. Just cut it thin enough to where it starts to rock back and forth, and then you should just be able to twist it out carefully like this. There we go. And now we have your attenuation pad. We have an attenuation pad now. And this is an interesting little part because, well, you put the main part of the circuit here, your 4 main resistors. Come on, focus. And your XLR in and your XLR out. Now, your XLR in and out are going to go on this part of the board. If you want to install the H-pad, you are going to cut this part right here along this white line. You will sever XLR pins 2 and 3, and the top of the switch here, you will connect here, and the bottom of the switch here, you will connect here, the same place that your XLR plug in the mic body connects to. And what that will do is it will put this pad in between the main part of the mic circuit and the XLR output. So now we have the microphone ready to assemble. We have all of our pieces. We've got our attenuation pad switch, which is your classic H-pad circuit design. We have got your EQ and brightness switch circuit. And we have got your high pass. And these daughter boards are all optional. In fact, I don't recommend you build all 3 of them into one TLM-103 style body because it's an extremely tight fit. The microphone I'm talking to you on right now has all 3 of them in it, and it was kind of a nightmare to build. So, I would pick your favorite one, maybe 2 if you're feeling extremely ambitious. 3 is a tight fit, and if you are, you know, insane, feel free to go ahead and try to build it, but don't say we didn't warn you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good to see you. I hope you have a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy your build, and let us know how it came out for you. Cheers!